Hello, my trailblazing friend. Welcome back into Southern California and welcome to Trailblazing TV, where I'm trailblazing a little bit of perspective about how you think about your brain and business. And I'm really excited to be back with you. We had a great episode this morning, and a lot of love, prayers, and concern goes out to all of our East Coast United States friends. I hope that you're all hunkered down and ready for the storm. Ray, hello, thanks for joining us and welcome, welcome. We're gonna have, this is gonna be kind of cool. So for those of you who are joining in, one of the things that I'd love to do while everybody is showing up is please take a moment to share where you're at. Ray, where are you checking in from? You know, we're out here in the San Diego area, so if you would just check in, feel free to share where you're at. I'd love to see where the village is coming in. So I know we had people from around the world this morning. My friend Merguri was checking in from down in Kenya. I had another friend of mine, Fulvio, he is in Italy. So it's always such an honor to have everybody show up from around the world. We had people, if I remember right, we had people from I had Ohio and we had New York. So Wendy, thank you, welcome on back. It's great to have you here with us too. So one of the things that I did this morning, well, I was planning on doing something this afternoon, so I'm going to give you a little tidbit. I shared a tidbit this morning on our Trailblazing TV topic, and one of the things that I shared was about my love of books. Stacy, nice to see you. Welcome back again. Stacy, hope you're doing really well over there on the East Coast. So this morning I shared about my fascination, my love of books, not only for reading them, writing them, but I actually worked in a library for a while. And so I'll share another little tidbit. I was going to do something for you today, but I'm going to have to figure out differently to do what I was going to do. So let me, this is a little known fact, although it's become kind of public. So in my family, the word on the street, so I've been told many times over, I'm not funny. In fact, my young one has told me to my face time and time again, he goes, Mom, you are the straight man to the straight man. So as we get to know each other and as I'm working here with you and if we're ever on the phone together and I attempt to tell a joke and I bomb at it and you want to laugh at that, it's okay. I've become pretty good at being laughed at my inability to tell a joke. And so why does that relate to this afternoon? Because this morning I was sharing a little bit about one of my favorite books, and we're going to talk about something in here in just a moment, but my husband happened to be in the room when I was doing live this morning. He's like, oh, you should go get the joke book. So here's the joke about the joke book, and I was going to bring the joke book out and actually share this with you, but I have to get a different joke book for this audience. So So little backstory, you know, my husband and I are musicians. That's what I went to. I was a music performance major. My husband's an audio engineer major. I sing, write, perform. That's my deepest passion. I'm very wind related. So saxophone is my main instrument. I play many others. My husband is very string oriented. And when we met, he was playing, I was still playing. We got together eventually and we had a band. And so, you know, there's times where there's technical issues that show up with the band, and I was fronting the band many times over, or he was focused on fixing what was technical, tuning a guitar, you know, tuning a guitar, maybe having to fix the speaker EQ. And so one of the rules of entertainment is that you're there to entertain. You should not be having an audience just sitting there. So my husband had a great idea, and I thought it would be kind of cool too. He goes, Deborah, you should tell jokes. Well, I'm not good at telling jokes, so that didn't go over well. So we tried again, and he went out and he actually bought me a book. He bought me a book of jokes, and so here's where this is, I'm letting you know ahead of time, this is my attempt to be funny. He bought me a book of jokes. I literally just learned this afternoon or this morning that he thought I would actually just like memorize the jokes. Well, I didn't. I would stand up in front of the audience with the joke book when it was time to tell a joke, and I would actually read the jokes. But evidently I'm so bad that even reading the jokes, I didn't do very well. So I did pull out the joke book for y'all today, but it's not for a G-rated audience or an all ages audience. So like I said, I'll have to find a different joke book, and maybe that'll be part of my opening shtick of my monologue. We'll see. So with that, I'd love to, thank you all for being here and investing a little part of your afternoon. So let me get into the topic that we opened up this morning, because this is something that I think it's a pretty powerful subject. And as I stated, what I spoke on this morning is kind of a pickup from what we talked about on Tuesday's episodes. So Tuesday, just as a reframe, I opened up dialogue and started to lead into the perspective and the concept of having perseverance in principles. And so for those of you where you're just tuning in for the first time, the definition of principles, in this case, it is the spelling P-R-I-N-C-I-P-L-E-S, not the P-A-L-S. P-A-L-S is always about the human. Principles, in this case, I shared the dictionary definition, and the definition that I was talking about and I'm going to continue to talk about has to do with holding on to our upright personal moral code. And so today, this morning, in our early morning episode, I opened up the conversation about traditions and truth. And I was talking about how in our current generation, it seems to be more prevalent than ever that people, especially here in the United States, are not as concerned. They don't pay as much attention to the honor behind their words. And what I mean by that, and I'm going to make a declaration here. I'm speaking very general. I'm not speaking to you, my viewer, personally, because you're part of my village. So I assume that you speak with ethics and truth. But there's been this whole moral movement away from the importance of the words that we speak. And so I'm not going to repeat what I talked about this morning. I'm just going to recap because I want to move forward in a subject with this subject idea. And so this morning, what we were talking about and why I shared the book, this is a great book to have. It's called The Psychology of Winning. I do believe you can find this book online on Amazon. The author is Dr. Dennis Waitley. And what I was talking about this morning was that this was a book that really had a huge impact in my personal development. I got turned on to the knowledge and the information that we could and we can change our brain. We can reprogram our thinking. And that concept, that awareness and knowledge, I was exposed to that somewhere when I was around 12. I got this literal book when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And this book showed up in my life at what was literally the darkest time of my life. And it was hard. It was not a pleasurable place. And this book had such a profound impact in my thought process that, as you can see, it's been well used. It's not a pretty book, but I do definitely recommend it. And so I wanted to share just a couple of things more from this book. And so for those of you who watched this morning and that are picking up this episode, one of the things I am cognizant of and I'm intentional about are my word choices. Now, this didn't come overnight. This has been an evolution of understanding the impact our words have in our persona, in our vibration, not just in our personality, but it has to do with our core essence and our core element of being a quality human being. And so I want to kind of reflect on something that I read this morning. So I read a section in the book from this author, and this author uses language that I don't typically use today. So he references winners and losers. I do not speak normally language of losers. I don't perceive anybody to be a loser. That's not where I come from. So I just wanted to clarify that what I read in this book, if that pinged your heart, please do understand that that came from the author. I was just sharing the larger concept. So with that, though, there are some very powerful things that I do want to read a little bit in here because it's going to segue into what I want to share with you and give you a new perspective about the traditions of truth as it relates to your language and your words. And I'm going to dig into the impact that it has on you personally, but more importantly, professionally. So the Dr. Whately talks about, this is a review, I believe it's a review of, looks like chapter 2, which is on positive self-esteem. So in here he talks about winners have a deep down feeling of their own worth. They know that, contrary to popular belief, this feeling of self-acceptance and deserving is not necessarily a legacy from wise and loving parents. History is full of saints who rose from the gutters and literal monsters who grew up in loving families. Winners are not outer directed. Recognizing their own uniqueness, they develop and maintain their own high standards. Though they recognize the universality of fear and anxiety, winners do not give in to these emotions. So he uses the next section, losing self-talk. I'm going to interpret my word here, and I'm going to put victim self-talk, is I'd rather be somebody else. Winning self-talk, I do things well because I'm that kind of person. Now, I'm going to edit for just a moment. I read this book the first time, I think in maybe 1988, so you can do the math. It was a while ago. And I'm going to edit my thoughts now because I've learned a lot along the way. I want to say also, hello, Oscar, welcome back. Lance, welcome back. It's so nice to have you here today. So in this, I wanted to state where Dr. Whately, going back to the book, Dr. Whately talks about the winning self-talk. I do things well because I'm that kind of person. Debra's edit, if I were to do an edit on this, I do things well because I choose to be that kind of person. So I encourage you to reflect on that sentence, okay? About I choose to be that kind of person. So there's a little bit more I want to share. Accept yourself as you are right now, an imperfect, changing, growing, and worthwhile person. Realize that liking yourself and feeling that you're a super individual in your own special way is not necessarily egotistical. In addition to taking pride into what you are accomplishing, and even more importantly, enjoy the unique person that you are just in being alive now. Understand the truth that although we, you and I, as individuals, we are not born with equal and physical, mental attributes. We are born with equal rights to feel excitement and joy in believing that we deserve the very best in life. Most successful people believe in their worth even when they have nothing but a dream to hold on to. And perhaps more than any other quality, healthy self-esteem is the door to high achievement and happiness. And that's my heart for you. I really do hope that you are stepping into a place where even if you're going through hardships and some drama, that you can actually see the other side. I've been through a lot of drama. I've been through a lot of hardships, and I'm thankful the one above has hardwired my brain to always see the good, even amongst the depths and in the pits of devastation. And I know that that's part of the calling that's been on my shoulders, is to lead myself. There's a mantra I share: lead yourself, lead others, and lead the leaders. And I've accepted this mantle of leadership so that I can inspire, educate, and take what I've gone through and share snippets of this to help you step into being your best. So I just wanted to read a little bit of this because there's some really strong, impactful language. And the book, if you purchase the book through Amazon, I don't get anything from it. I'm not an affiliate with him. It's just that I do know that it's either you or somebody's in your life that is struggling through something right now, and this book could be as pivotal to them as it was for me. So I just thought I would share. I was very inspired to share that today. So with that, here's the segue. So traditions and truth, what is this? Well, there's truth in our words, and there are times I've spoken. There was a, let me think about when this was. It was in, I'm thinking maybe 2008 or 2009. I had an opportunity to speak at an international business leadership conference, and I was talking about some of the nuggets of information that came out of a book series that I wrote on leadership. The book series is called The Power of Leadership. And one of the elements that I was talking about initially, was in my presentation, was about our own authenticity. And I had used my sweet, sassy initial language, and part of what I was going to say to the audience was You know, when you know that you are being authentic and truthful with yourself is when you can stand naked in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eye, and like what you see. I had a very, very smart lady friend of mine who, she's like, Deborah, you're going to be in front of an international audience with over 53 cultures and countries here, so maybe we don't talk about being naked in front of people. So I changed that to masks, okay? So in many days, and especially for those of us that grew up in the 80s, not were born in the 80s, but we actually grew up in the 80s and the 90s, there was this element of compartmentalization that seemed to be the norm. It kind of came out of the 70s where, you know, there was this breakaway. From the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was this breakaway in attitude and in some cases morals. And, you know, as a country and as a culture, American culture, we went through a whole lot of change. When we moved into the 80s, there was this predominance of compartmentalization. So what am I talking about? We compartmentalized our life and we compartmentalized our business. You compartmentalized, you showed up to school acting one way, you went out to party with your friends acting another way, you go to your job and you put on a mask and you're acting another way, you go home, and for those of us, you know, who were young teens or teens during that time, you go home and you have to act a different way with your parents. And then if you go hang out with these friends over here who were not these friends over here, you'd act a different way. So what I'm talking about is compartmentalization in our attitude and in our perspective and in our mindset and in our behavior. It also came through with compartmentalization with our language, like the words that we use. So here's the question. Is that still going on in your life, or do you still see that in the lives of others? I want to take a moment to welcome Mary and Karen. Thanks for joining us. So compartmentalization, and actually give me a thumbs up. I'd love to see. Does this whole element of compartmentalization, do you work with people that are that way? Do you have people in your life that are still like that? Because if you are working with people like that, then hopefully you can take away a couple of messages from today and maybe give them a little bit of love and encouragement. Because see, here's the thing, and I'm seeing some thumbs fly up. This is cool. So here's the thing. When we're living in a state of compartmentalization, right? You've heard me talk about there's this element where I'd say, I think I have to look this statistic up. It's between 73 and 83% of people live with a state of disconnect. There's the who they are and the who they want to be, but in the middle is this pit. It's this pit of separation. And what it kind of is, it's a misalignment in some cases of values. In some cases, it is of false beliefs and false perspectives. It's a misalignment. The conscious and the subconscious brain are not completely aligned. That's kind of deep, and I don't have time today to like dig into all the nuances of it, but just I ask you to just flow with me on this. And what I'm talking about is when we are living with these compartmentalized elements of our personality, it causes us to feel unrest. And when we go to look in the mirror, like, and ask ourselves, do we like who we see? Do we love who we see? That's not always easy for everybody. And my friend, I'm speaking from, I've been there, done that. It took me a very, very, very long time to get to the place where I knew I had a lot of good. I knew deep inside that the person I am is a good person, but I had been, like everybody else, susceptible to all these other attitudes and beliefs and input that were unknowingly causing a conflict for me. And it's been interesting because in the process of leading, right, I never asked for leadership. I've never asked for a leadership role. In the household, leadership responsibilities were put on me. Growing up, going to work, I didn't ask for leadership, but leadership was put on my shoulders. In business, I didn't ask for leadership. I've never sought a management job. I've always just done sales. That's sales and marketing. That's what I've done. But yet these leadership roles would be placed upon me. So even with that, I'm speaking to you with authenticity, knowing that I've known I'm a good person. I did my best under my circumstances. Yep, I made a lot of mistakes. Yep, I had some hardships, a lot of hardships, but I've worked my way through it, and I've learned the importance of having everything be connected, right? Everything be connected so that what we say, how we act, how we think, how we feel and what we do, they're all in one alignment. And that is what I'm talking about with being able to be honest with yourself about who you are and what you're doing. And so for me, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just sharing you right now because I'm going to segue into how this relates to business. So for me, I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I felt. That's why I've invested many decades, and I won't reveal my age, some of you know, but I've invested decades of personal self-development, and I am a true advocate. I believe that there's always room for improvement. So when we're talking about truth, traditions, and truth, as it relates to your words, the words you think, the words you say, the words that you speak, the words that you hear, the words that you write have a very profound impact in your life and in the lives of others. So I went a little deeper on that element this morning. You can go back and watch this morning, but I'm going to shift this into, it's moving it from us into business. Because when you are running a company, you are working at a company, you are still a human first. It's still you, the individual, leading you. How you show up everywhere and how you do everything is a reflection of you. Yes, you are representative of the company that you're working for or the company that you're building. And the words you say matter. And my hope here in sharing this concept with you is to help create awareness, because in the scope of business now, right, in the world of business, a lot of what I deal with when I'm helping my clients learn how to market more efficiently, they want to improve their sales results, they want to shorten the time it takes to sell, they want to make more money, they want to have more clients, they want to feel more joy, you know, all the reasons we go into business. Sometimes there is this overriding stumbling block that gets in the way. So when we're talking about traditions in truth, and I'm bringing this very specific focus of words and language in business, there are oftentimes I have to help my clients through states of disconnect in business. And it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural issue. So for example, there was, I remember many years ago, one of the first businesses that my husband and I built was a carpet cleaning business. And we had gotten to the point where it was just him and myself to begin with. And then we grew, we scaled up, and we had sales staff and other people helping us. And I remember this one woman that we hired as an employee. I've hired the worst employee ever with this one. I will tell you that. Long learning curve. But one of the things that was just mortifying to me, and I'm sharing this because it went down and she was literally like as close as my water bottle is to me. This was her in a chair on the phone with a prospective client, and I was literally standing right behind the chair. So we are this close. And I remember we've always had very strong ethics in our company. That's part of why we went into business for ourselves, is we wanted to have honest work, honest business, and do business in a way that we felt was right, no matter what the business is. So many years ago, I had this sales rep that had a question. There was somebody on the phone that asked a question, and my rep turned to me and said, "Hey, Deb, can we do blank?" And I thought about it. I considered everything, all the different scenarios, because the quick answer was no, we don't do that. The prospect was asking us to do something that was not a part of our normal flow of business. And so I thought about it, and I basically told my rep, no, we don't do that. My rep looked at me in the eye. Remember, we were this close. She turned her back to me, like, you know, because she had looked at me when I gave her the answer. She turned, spoke back to the phone and said, yes. So that was one of those moments where that is not truth in our language. That was an obvious lie. And so why am I saying that? Because she misrepresented intentionally my business. And it's not like she was going to make money off of this. What she did, because she was not being truthful with herself, She misrepresented our company, and the trickle down impact was that it caused a situation where now I had to for me, my integrity was being called to the line. So I wanted to make good. It's not I wanted to, I needed to make good on what this sales rep had just promised, even though it was going to create a hardship to do it. Now, there's a lesson in there that I'm not going to go into. So I just wanted to give you a really exaggerated but real situation of sometimes how truth in business, the tradition of truth in business, doesn't work. Because you have people that might be in your organization or might be in your space that no matter what the operations and the ethics and the policies of the company are, your protocols of how you do business well, you might have people that they are not able to be honest with themselves first. And when that is the issue, they create these trigger conditions in your company. And that was the case with her. She had a lot of things in her life where she was not honest about many, many things. And that carried over into our business and caused a lot of drama. So there's another level. I was at, where was I? I was at a store this week. Yes, I was. I had to go. My young son got bit by a spider. Monday, I think it was, Sunday night, he woke up and had a little spider bite, only it wasn't a little bite, it was a big bite. We're not a family. I don't do a lot of medication. I'm not one that runs quick to the doctor, but in this case, I was watching it. By the next day, his finger had swollen so much, like it was wide and fat, couldn't bend, and I just knew we have to go to the doctor. So I took him to the doctor. Doctor looked at him and gave us a prescription for some antibiotics. So ran to the drugstore that was nearby, and all I had to do was get, this prescription filled. And so this is another way of how truth and tradition of truth, right? Honoring the tradition of truth has an impact in business. And so I'm giving you another side. This was a large national chain drugstore, very well established, very well known. And it was interesting to see because I was like, here's the counter, this is the pharmacy people. I was waiting right here because they had to put us into the system. And then behind me, there was a couple of other ladies that showed up. There was a couple other ladies that showed up because they too had to drop off a prescription. And I won't go into all the details, but what I will say is that the way that the people behind the counter, the pharmacy techs, there were two of them, we were getting busy, and it was their behavior behind the counter that was not overly integrity based. Their words and their actions were not quite lining up, and I just watched it go down. The ladies behind the counter, their words and actions were not lining up. They were not mindful of the lines and the people that were waiting in line. And it was very interesting, little disturbing, but interesting to observe that the people in line behind me, all of a sudden the words that started coming out of their mouth about the poor service, and there was just a lot of negative talk because the people behind the counter didn't have integrity in their words and their actions, where one simple sentence to acknowledge something that the ladies behind me were in need of could have changed a whole dynamic and created an amazing situation. But instead, what I was in the middle of was a negative situation because words and choices, words and actions were not in alignment from within the culture of the company of this national brand. So with that, I hope that what I'm saying is making sense. So I know you're all hanging with me, and I bring a lot of concepts into Trailblazing TV. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just ask you, give me a thumbs up if you're tracking with this understanding of what I'm trying to share, because what I'm trying to create here is an awareness about the importance of being holding the tradition of truth. There's a tradition and a moral principle about being honest with ourselves first, with the words that we're saying, because there is an impact personally and professionally. And I'm going to dig deeper into this again next week, but I'd love to see from y'all, are you tracking with me on this? Can I see a little love? Can I see a little thumbs up on this? Or do you have questions? All right, well, with that, thank you all. So I would love to hear from you. You know, feel free to connect up with me. Let me know if this one resonates. This one's a little bit of a deeper subject. So with that, I'm going to wrap up now. Stay tuned. We're going to pick up this topic again on Tuesday. I'm going to take it one more layer. But with that, my friend, remember to live in your power, live in your peace, know that I love you, rock on, and have a magnificent day. Okay, thanks. Bye.